Good evening, good evening, good evening. You are with the Red Sea podcast, and I'm telling you now, it's an absolute cracker. We are discussing Mo Salah, top of the COP. Has he achieved legendary status already? We're going to find out because we've got some great panelists with us tonight. Thank you for joining us. As I said, this one's not to be missed. Let's roll that intro.
Tell the world we are Liverpool, champions of England.
We've conquered all of Europe. We're never gonna stop. From Palestine to Turkey, we've won the fucking lot. But Paisley and the Shankly, the fields of our field gold. We are all supporters, and we come from Liverpool.
Good evening, guys. Good evening. SS, how are you doing?
I'm good, mate. Well, it feels like I'm part of the world's best five-a-side. What a team we've got for tonight.
I know. It's amazing. As someone tweeted quite aptly, is that this team could probably win the Premier League. I'm sure we could, because we brought the big guns out tonight.
Yeah.
So I'm really privileged to be joined by our friends over at Redmen TV. Introduce yourself for me, pal.
Yeah, Chris from Redmen TV. I'm excited to be here. First time on this one, of course, so I'm looking forward to it, to be honest with you, boys.
Definitely, and we're pleased to have you as well. And my newfound friend from Top of the COP, introduce yourself for me, mate.
Yeah, it's first time it's for me as well. I'm Roy from Top of the COP. And yeah, it's great to be here. Star-studded lineup.
Good. And we've got the big man here, the big dog, JP, James Pearce from The Athletic. How you doing, mate? You okay?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, how are you guys? You okay?
Yeah, really, really good. Pleasure to have you back with us, as I said. It's really, really good to have you on board as well. But we've got official business to discuss this evening, because in the wake of probably some real good accolades and kind of plaudits that this sensational player has been receiving of late, I just think it's long overdue. And really, we're here just to discuss where he's at. Where does he sit in regards to the legends of Liverpool Football Club? And it's the Mo Salah show, top of the COP, king of the COP. SS,
yeah.
I'm going to come to you first, and we're going to dive straight in to Liverpool goal-scoring record that Mo Salah has.
Absolutely.
Where does he sit in regards to his goal-scoring record?
It's a little bit crazy, isn't it? I mean, I just wanted to bring this up just so, because if I just talk through the numbers, sometimes it's hard to kind of imagine them. But when you see them written down in front of you, you know, the actual goals per season, if you count all competitions, his first season, and Roy made a really good question before we went live about what was your favourite Salah season. Well, 44 goals in a debut season in the Premier League is absolutely outrageous. You could probably say 22 and 22 over two seasons would be good. So, you know, 44 in 1 year is something I never thought I would see. But again, the season after, you know, 27, which is still very, very strong for an inside forward, followed by 23 and, you know, 31 last year, when really Liverpool were, you know, really struggling for large parts of that season, weren't we? And, you know, to still pop up with 31 goals in a team, you know, absolutely ravaged with injuries was sensational, and probably the only reason we did actually finish in the top four was Mo Salah's goals. But he started this season incredibly well, 6 in 7 in the Prem, 9 in 9 in all competitions. But just before I drop the stats, I just wanted to kind of touch a little bit on our favourite saying, James, availability being the best ability. Look at the games played in the 4 seasons he's been here: 52, 52, 48 and 51. I mean, that's Genie Wijnaldum numbers, isn't it? So he's always available. He always seems to be in form. If he doesn't score for 2 or 3 matches, he gets a hat-trick in the next one. So, you know, what a player. And not just the goals, but availability, assists. He's got the lot, hasn't he?
Yeah, he really has. And I think the durability and just how robust he is sometimes goes a bit under the radar, because there's so much talk about his goal scoring and also, you know, 46 assists he's got in those 212 games for the club in all competitions, which, you know, it shows that he is just so much more than just a goal scorer. And, you know, and also when you look at all these goal scoring records he's he's picked up along the way. And all these big names that he's either beaten or he's in the same company as. He's not even a striker, is he? He's a right-sided attacker who cuts inside. It's absolutely crazy the consistency he's produced. And I think, I had a look, and I think he's only missed 7 Premier League games in what is it now, his 5th season at Liverpool, and I'm sure probably half of them, were probably just rested ahead of big games. As opposed to injuries, which in itself is remarkable when you think of the absolute kicking he frequently gets in games. So testament to his professionalism, the way he looks after himself, and I think there was a game recently. I don't know whether it was Porto or the game before when you saw him tearing back, and he was playing as a makeshift right back suddenly for 30-40 seconds, and that epitomizes him for me, because yes, he's absolutely devastating in the final third, but he's also a magnificent team player.
Yeah,
I totally agree. And it brings us nicely on to the back-to-back Golden Boot winning seasons. In the season when he won the Golden Boot, 2017-2018, 32 goals. That is incredible. From a player which arguably there were doubts about when he joined Liverpool. The fan base wasn't convinced. Let's be honest. When we were linked with Mohamed Salah, we always thought there could potentially be better available on the market at that point for the money we were paying for him. Openly, Jurgen Klopp says that he wasn't his first choice. We were linked with others, and then we went out and we made it happen and brought Mo Salah to the club, and we've not looked back since. Following on from that 2018-2019 season, 22 goals in which the Golden Boot was shared between himself, Sadio Mane, Pierre Aubameyang, and I think maybe one other. Harry Kane getting on that one as well.
It was Mane, wasn't it? I think that shared it.
Yeah. So it was a shared Golden Boot that year, but still, again, the goal scoring numbers just keep falling in. I mean, Chris, we're going to come to you on this one. What's your thoughts on these numbers? These are he keeps on producing season after season. This isn't a fluke, and the numbers, arguably apart from last season, are getting better and better and better. And he's adding assists to his game as well. It's crazy.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest with you, I kind of disagree on the assist things. He's kind of always done it. It's just people seem to just forget about it because there were so many more goals. But I think in that season where he got, the Premier League record in 38 games, that was the 32 goals, wasn't it? That was the best anyone's ever done in a 38 game season, as I remember it. Anyway, he got double-digit assists, I think, in that season. So, for me, he's always kind of done a little bit of everything. And, for me, James mentioned it just a minute ago, he's always worked really hard. I just think he might even work even harder this season. It looks like a man who is on a mission to win the Premier League, and now he is the complete player. And I think that's the one thing that is probably different to a few years ago. He was very, very lethal a few years ago, and he'd score goals all the time. Now it doesn't matter where he picks the ball up. You think of that first goal against Manchester City, he wins the ball back for us, sort of halfway line-ish, or might have been deeper than the halfway line. So, and that's just typical now. Every time you get him the ball, you are thinking something is going to happen, something magic's going to happen here. It's not him getting on the end of a chance. He is actually pulling the strings of the entire team. Now, he just looks like a player who is primed to be in the prime of his career for the next 2, 3, 4 seasons, as far as I can see it. Because I don't know if we've even seen him at his best yet. This first part of this season might be him at his best.
That's scary to think that it could get even better. And I just want to reference some quotes that popped up on his Instagram after the Manchester City game. And this kind of sent a shudder down my spine, in a sense that he means business this year. We really wanted to win this one, but we are still in the game. We're going for the title, and we have what it takes. We've not seen a Liverpool player for a long time come out and make those kind of huge claims to say, look, we're in the game
Unless
this
the
year.
name was Dejan Lovren, in which case we saw.
We forget about those ones. We do. because it came along with I'm the best centre back in the world, and quickly after his Liverpool career was over. To be fair, but Roy, I'll come to you on this one. That's ballsy. The balls on the kid to come out and say, listen, this year we're going for it, all guns blazing, and off the back of that performance, where. Do you know what? The season's not even over, and that is goal of the season. I'm sorry, that is goal of the season. Season's not over; it's goal of the season. To score that just shows where he's at. What's your thoughts?
To be honest, I don't know if you noticed, I was nodding in agreement when Chris said this season he just seems to have the bit between the teeth. And to be fair, you're talking about favourite seasons. My favourite season of Salah's was last season when everything was going against us, and he dragged points out of that team, got points for our team that weren't there to be get. He was picking up points on his own. He scored 31 goals in that season as well, which if you have a look, I know he scored obviously 44, but the seasons he scored 20 odd. He's beat those records in a season that people say that we were the worst defence, title defence in history. We're not, by the way, but the point is, last season my favourite season with him, and this season last season there was a bit of a debate on Twitter about him and Mane, were they getting on? Were they not getting? Everyone was up and people had their own opinions. This season, the pair of them have come out. They seem to be passing, looking for each other a lot more, like they did in the season when Salah scored 44. And as Chris said, he just seems to have the bit between his teeth. There's something about him. The way he moved the ball from left to right to shift it past Bernardo Silva was ridiculous. Then he obviously sends Laporte to shops and puts it in the far corner. To be fair, when I was doing a little bit of research on the goals over the last few seasons, he's done that at least 4 times against other teams. Exact carbon copy move, and it's he just knows when he's in that position, and we know he's going to be deadly. And yet this season, I think we might even see a better season than from the previous 4 or 5 that we've seen from him.
That's devastating to think that, as I said before, that we've not even seen the best. He's coming into his prime years, and as a player, it seems like players' prime years are getting a little bit older because players are playing for longer. You look at Lewandowski, you look at Cristiano Ronaldo, you look at Messi. These players are playing for a lot longer. Could we see, and SS, I'll come to you on this one. Could we see Mo Salah play well into his 30s, and fingers crossed, it will be at Liverpool Football Club? Where do you see it?
Yeah, it's the consistency that he's shown. But we've seen people. It's kind of been Salah and De Bruyne, isn't it, for the last 3 or 4 years? And I feel De Bruyne is not. I know he scored in the game yesterday, but I don't feel that he's constantly at the top of his game. I feel that he has had dips, whether that be with injury, lack of form. But Mo Salah is always Mo Salah. No matter what position Liverpool are in as a team, he is there, and you would back him to score in every game that he plays in, and the only other players that you would do that with are the ones that you've just reeled off there. The Haaland, Lewandowski, Ronaldo, and Messi. These are the kind of company that he's keeping. And you mentioned the 3; they're all 33, 35, 36, and Mo Salah, still in his late 20s and hasn't really shown any sign of slowing down. As Roy said, 9 in 9 this season, and why would he not go and score more than he did last year? He got 31 last year without a defence behind him. Trent and Robertson couldn't attack as much because we were missing Van Dijk and Matip and Gomez. So there's more creativity there. He had Fabinho and Henderson not in midfield half the time. So there's no reason he can't score more goals than he did last year, because ultimately Liverpool are going to win more games. We're not going to go 6 games in a row at Anfield without a victory or losing 6 in a row. It's not going to happen this year. So I think that this could be his best ever season. And the fact that we've got, Mane back in form, he's scoring goals. And again, Roy touched on it, Mane and Salah, that they setting each other up was absolutely brilliant to see, because 2 pace merchants like that up front, they should be setting each other up constantly. Like Chris said, it's not just a new thing of assists. He's been doing this over a period of time, but once somebody becomes top goal scorer and, has that little bit of selfishness in them, which you have to be of that level, they can sometimes be criticised. But yeah, in terms of the question, how long can he go? He's in his prime, and players of that level can play until 32, 33, 34. I think the difference is with Salah to maybe a Ronaldo and a Lewandowski, he's not a big number 9. he does rely on pace a fair bit. You know, so he does he have that in him to go a bit more centrally later in his career? I'm not too sure. I think he's perfect as a right winger, cutting in on that left foot. And the great thing about him, which we've seen, you know, the 4 goals he scored against Watford in his first season and the one at the weekend, he can go left, he can go right, because it doesn't matter which way you send him, he can score a goal. So I think he can carry on, and hopefully James will have some inside information about this new contract, because I think he's on 200 a week at the minute. I mean, he's probably going to be looking for 300, I would have thought, the next one.
And you jumped the gun a little bit there, but
sorry.
We'll get into it. We'll get into it because James, I do think this is probably the best place for you to step in and for us to have this conversation. I mean, he's for me personally, he's the best. He's the best in world football at the moment. He's there. We've seen Messi kind of stall a little bit, whether it be injury, whether it be acclimatizing to new surroundings. Ronaldo's come into Manchester City, and Manchester United, and yes, he scored goals, but the performances haven't looked accomplished in the same way they have done in yesteryear. We think about the time, the role he played in Real Madrid, you know, La Decima, so on and so forth, and everything that he done at Real Madrid. And then you look at the time at Juventus, which was, he scored goals, but it wasn't, again, prime Cristiano Ronaldo form. Mo Salah at the moment is everything to Liverpool Football Club. When the chips are down, he produces. When we need a goal, he produces. When we need a moment of magic, he produces. Liverpool Football Club and FSG have surely got to pin this man down. And what do you think it's going to take to pin this man down?
Well, it's certainly going to take the most expensive contract Liverpool will have ever dished out to anyone. But I think if you want to keep hold of the best, you have to pay the market value for the best. And I agree with you that, you know, currently he has to be regarded as the finest attacking footballer in world football. And yeah, I think I'm not massively worried at the moment. I think, you know, traditionally when players get down to their last 2 years, it obviously becomes a talking point, and we know that negotiations have taken place so far. I just think it was always going to be the most challenging of the renewals that was in Michael Edwards' in tray. I think when you look at the other ones he's done this summer, I think they all looked more straightforward. I think Mo Salah at this stage of his career, you know, 29 going on 30, this will be the biggest contract that he ever signs. And, you know, quite rightly, you know, Rami Abbas, his lawyer stroke agent, will be trying to get the absolute best deal for him. So yeah, I think it's a process, isn't it? Where, you know, clearly at the moment, whatever is on the table, you know, it hasn't been, you know, they haven't snapped Liverpool's hand off for it. I'm sure that those talks will be ongoing at the moment. And, you know, to me, a compromise just has to be reached, because I think you know, for all the talk about wage structures, and I know that is a consideration for the owners. You don't want to, you know, they think that a key part of the success that Liverpool have had in recent years is not having too big a disparity between, you know, their highest wage earners. We know that they love these, you know, highly incentivized contracts with bonuses. But in saying all of that, and I just think, you know, Liverpool without Mohamed Salah, and the thought of him having the rest of his peak years of his career somewhere else is just, you know, unthinkable for me, because of his influence, and because of just, he's the absolute perfect fit for this team. And I also think I haven't spoke to anyone at the club who thinks that Mo Salah has had his head turned or is not 100% fully committed. I think, you know, right from the first day in Evian back in July, in Austria back in July, you know, all the talk then was like, wow, you know, look at this guy, look at the shape he's come back in, look how hungry and driven he is. You know, it was almost like he'd taken it as a personal affront that Liverpool weren't able to challenge and win trophies last season, and he was a man on a mission to put that right. And, you know, I think that's been shown in the flying start he's made to the season. So I'm still pretty hopeful. I think, you know, clearly you don't want this dragging on into the new year, and certainly not to next summer. I think, if we're sat here talking about an ongoing contract saga in March, April, May, then I think the alarm bells will be ringing. But yeah, not for me yet.
Yeah,
I mean, it is going to be his biggest contract because you're right. We're heading into the prime years. He wants to command a salary which is befitting of his time at the club. And what we're seeing now is we're seeing his best form that we've seen. His opening stage of the season, he's been unplayable, and the assist for Mane just personifies that for me in terms of the level of football that he's been playing. James, I'll come back to you on this. Are FSG playing a dangerous game? Are they playing a dangerous waiting game? Because as his performances go up and the level of performance go up, and let's say we get to May and Liverpool lift the Premier League title and it's spearheaded by Mohamed Salah, surely that contract might end up with another 5-0 on the end of it as opposed to a 0-0 on the end of it. He's going to ask for more money. His agent isn't stupid. He's going to know, keep putting in them performances, Mo, and what your command is going to go up. So the question is are FSG being risky with their current strategy?
No, I wouldn't say risky. I think, as you said, if we're still here talking about this come next May, then clearly that is a massive concern, and FSG will have failed to have nailed down someone who was it is absolutely integral to the team now and should be for years to come. I don't think it's risky, the fact that it hasn't been done yet, because I think the important thing to say is both parties have kept their cards very close to their chest. I know various figures have been banded around, and I know that I've been told that Salah just he wants to be he can see, he knows that Grealish is on 300 grand a week at City. De Bruyne on nearly 400 grand a week, and is, quite rightly looks at his numbers, looks at his appearance record, and says, well, that is look, if they're worth that, then surely look at me, I'm surely comparable to them, rightly so. So I think there isn't ever a contract negotiation where a player's representatives makes demands and then Liverpool just say, yeah, no problem, we'll get it typed up and you just sign here. So there's always back and forth, whether it's over the basic, whether it's over bonuses linked to team achievements or personal achievements. So no, I don't think it's risky at the moment, because I think we can all see at the moment, like it's not as if I think it would be different if anyone thought that there was any uncertainty that was preying on Mo Salah's mind, but that clearly is not the case, is it, currently? So I wouldn't say a risky game at the moment. I think, but yeah, if we get into the new year with this unresolved, then you are playing a risky game.
I totally agree with everything you said. And Chris, I'm going to come to you quickly on this one as well. There's a question here, which is quite apt. Do you think it might upset the dressing room if they go and give Mo 300,000, 350,000? Is that going to create some unrest?
No, not happening. Because who's looking around that dressing room thinking Mo doesn't deserve to be on more money than them?
Yeah. Simple as that.
Honest to God.
Yeah.
It is as simple as that.
Sit there and go, I do more than him. No one.
Yeah.
No one. Mate. Like, you know what I mean? I just don't see that would be an issue. And look, I get it when teams are about the individual. Like it's got to be about the team, hasn't it? And I understand that, and that's why Liverpool don't want huge amounts of disparity, I think, between the top earner and your other first teamers, shall we say, rather than like number 19, 20, 21 or something like that. But no one in their right mind is standing in that dressing room thinking, I should be on the same as Mo Salah. It's just not going to happen. Like, Virgil van Dijk is probably just as important, but he understands that defenders don't get paid the same as strikers. Like, he's grown up in football. Like, he couldn't even therefore say it. So I just don't see that it would be an issue. I really don't. If anyone thinks otherwise, tell me, like, and obviously we can discuss it, but I just don't see how it would ever be a thing for anyone in that dressing room.
I think...
Sorry, Roy. You're right. You're right in what you're saying there. But we know what it's like with footballers, right? It's a short career. It's a short career. Yeah, and again, I don't for one moment think that we have those kind of characters in our dressing room, because character is a big thing for our manager. He speaks about it all the time. Yeah, and he doesn't want any bad eggs. And I don't see any bad eggs. You never hear of any unrest. And if you do, it's all paper chat, which is bollocks, right? But it is a short career. So those players might be looking and going, oh, he's on 350 grand. I'm only on 150. Have I got a nudge for 200? Have I got a nudge for 175? I just think that there is something to be said for creating a dangerous president, especially after, you know, let's say Salah gets his 350, whatever it may be, and then, you know, he retires and it's 350. The next star that comes in going, well, he was on 350. My starting point is 400,000.
Yeah, but James, this is the thing with Mo. This isn't a fella that's come in. This isn't a new guy like Cristiano Ronaldo who's come in on more wages than anyone in the football club's ever earned. This is a guy who's been there through the entire journey, who was integral to us winning those trophies. And if it's a short career, and a lot of footballers at our club, I believe, want to win trophies, Mo Salah gives you the best opportunity to win those trophies with him in your side. You know what I mean? Rather than going, well, look, I understand it. I'm a top earner at the club now, but we've not got Mo Salah because he's moved on for an extra 100 grand a week somewhere else. You'd never do that. You'd never. Mo Salah gives us the best chance of winning the Premier League this season and next season and the season after. You couldn't replace him for anybody in world football right now. I think he's better than Haaland. I think he's better than Mbappe now. Now, the conversation in 3-4 years' time might be completely different. But right now, he's a better fit for Liverpool than the other lads.
Yeah.
So,
no, and
I don't know.
What you're saying is totally spot on. Roy, sorry, I'll come to you. You had something just to add to that.
Yeah, I was just going to. I think we've all kind of alluded to the fact that there's no grumblings going on with Salah. You know, his on-field performances, his goals, his tracking back, his Instagram posts, even for instance, you can tell that there's no issues at his end at the moment regarding his contract. And we've talked a few numbers here. If he's after around, because obviously he's got loyalty to Liverpool, whereas when the likes of Messi moved to PSG, things like that, they've got no loyalty. They're there for the money. If the numbers that are rumoured are true, where he wants between 300, 350 a week to stay at your club, when he's handedly winning points on his own, I think you just snap his arm off. I really do. You know, your Mbappe's and your Haalands, don't get me wrong, imagine landing one of them for the next few seasons. But at the moment, they're pipe dreams for every team. And we've got Mo Salah in our club right now. And if the best foot player in European football at the moment, wants to stay at your club for near half of what some of them players are earning, it's a no-brainer, and I don't understand obviously, as James has alluded to, it will be down to certain bonuses, but you just need to get that done as soon as possible, in my opinion, because his best years are ahead of him as well, as we've all discussed. This season he looks so fit, so hungry, and you time down for another 4-5 year contract going into 33, 34. It's a no-brainer.
I totally agree with you. SS, we're just going to jog it on slightly. Premier League winning season, Club World Cup, European Super Cup. Mate, that season was unbelievable. I was at the Leicester game when we came back from the Club World Cup. Yeah. And my God, it was emphatic. The performance was just scintillating. Trent galloping down the wing, smashing it in the bottom corner. Roberto Firmino just absolutely on smoke. Mo Salah it was crazy. It was like we just had a week in the sun. Honestly, it was like we'd had a week in the sun.
Yeah.
Is that
sure?
Yeah, is that the best Liverpool season? Obviously, we won the league, but everything that around that, is that the best Liverpool season we've seen from Mo Salah?
It's hard to top, isn't it, with the trophies? I mean, we're talking about him as an individual, but we're all in this game. All the players are in this game to win the biggest team trophies out there, and like you say, off the back of the Champions League, as well. Coming into that season and pretty much sweeping up every trophy that was on offer. The ones that we'd qualified through winning up competitions.
Major trophy. We don't count League Cup, FA Cup, do we?
Well, no, we're not really ever bothered to try in those, have we? But we were the first team to do the international treble, I believe, from England as well. So that's another thing to add. But yeah, I mean, it's really difficult to pick a specific season out. You know, we were touching before on the season where we did get to Kiev and Ramos, you know, ended that dream, and you know, Liverpool and Mo Salah were the most informed team in Europe, and Salah was the most informed player himself, and they knew the only way to win this game is to stop this guy, and that was the plan from minute one, and they managed it. But you know, to see him bounce back and like you say, be a major part of that Champions League winning team, scoring the penalty to get us on our way, and continuing that form into the next season, and having been so close the season before to winning the league, to actually go and do it, you know, off the back of that, and something like, you know, 97 and 99 points back-to-back seasons, which is just absolutely ridiculous. And I agree with the guys, but without Mo Salah, none of this happens. And, you know, we've got big players. We signed Addison and Van Dijk, and, you know, that made us such a better team. And Henderson and Wijnaldum have come to the plate, and Robertson and Trent. But without Mo Salah, all of this success that we've had under Klopp, in my opinion, does not reach those heights. He makes that much of a difference. And, you know, Chris mentioned that strikers get paid more, you know, that they get Ballon d'Or wins more than defenders do. And the reason for it is, to win a football game, you have to score a goal. And, you know, Dave made a good comment in there as well about, if you ask any player, any fan in Asia and Africa and in North America to name a Liverpool player, it's going to be Salah now. He's that worldwide. You know, I see people on Twitter saying, you know, their 3, 4, 5-year-old know the Salah song. You know, he's become a worldwide superstar at Liverpool. So yeah, you know, if we had to see him leave and go and play for a PSG at 32, 33, or a Madrid, I think everybody would be pretty heartbroken. So it's absolutely paramount, if we want to continue this success under Klopp's era, that Mo Salah is at the forefront of it.
I agree. And as we move into the second part of the show, just want a bit of housekeeping as well. If you're in the comments as well, we appreciate you. Please like and subscribe to the Red Sea podcast. We are on our way to 500 subscribers, so we'd love you to be part of that as well. Make sure you set the bell notification for everything we've got coming up, because this is the first installment of our Red Man triple header. So today we are celebrating Mo Salah, King of the Cop. Tomorrow will be our strikers tier list, and no doubt Mo Salah will feature in there as well. And then on Thursday is strikers tier list part 2, because we've had some real ones in there, haven't we? We've had some and some fantastic goal scorers, and that's one thing that Liverpool have never been short of over the years, and that's a top class number 9. We've always had some of the best number 9s, and it's a good opportunity now just to jog it on to some of the iconic goals. And I just put together some ones which stand out in my memory, and the Everton one, where he's just again, it's almost like a carbon copy of what we saw on the weekend against Manchester City. So that for me was kind of almost like the first time where we saw that kind of jinky run where he's put a couple on their arse and he's just buried it. You know, a sensational goal. I mean, what's everyone's thoughts and on that one? I'll give the floor out to anyone on this. The Everton goal for me was just scintillating.
I want to see what everybody else picks.
Yeah, who's going? Raise me the Everton goal.
Yeah, can you beat it?
There's a few though.
I prefer the Tottenham one.
When he appeals and then still gets there first.
Yeah, I thought Sunday's was better, but I thought his one against Tottenham was better than the one against Everton. The Everton one obviously won the Puskas Award, didn't it, off FIFA? But yeah, I loved the one against Spurs with just the way he just embarrassed so many defenders and just that ability to operate in just such ridiculously tight spaces and then finish like that. But yeah, I mean the thing is we have been spoiled, and you could spend all night trying to limit it to a top 5 or a top 10, because the one against Chelsea as well is like, I remember having pretty much the perfect view of that from where the press box is at Anfield, and just one of them ones where you were off your feet long before the ball actually ended up in the net, because you knew exactly where it was ending up.
But James, you know what? That goal, what I think that one is standout because of what it meant. Because if you think about the run up to that game, all the shithouse behaviour from the Chelsea fans, it was disgusting. Some of the stuff that was getting banded around before that game. And Chris, I'll come to you on this one. For him to just stick that rocket in that top corner, and for, the keeper, he was nowhere like, you know, the saying is you can put 2 keepers in the goal and it won't stop it. 2, 3, 4, 5. You can put as many as you want in it. That was destined for the top corner. I mean, what's your take on it?
That Chelsea goal was ridiculous. Like it. What some of my favourite finishes are the ones that go like a rocket, just straight. Because I think it's the hardest thing to do with a football. Like it's much easier, I think, to start a ball out and curl it in than it is to just hit the ball straight from 30 yards. Because most of the time it deviates in some way. He hit it like a pissing driver in the golf. You know, the way it just sort of goes woof like that. It's just a beautiful technique. And the fact that it was against them as well, one of the, you know, rivals of the last sort of 15 years or so for me, you know, I love that one. A goal that's not on there and perhaps doesn't deserve to be spoken about in quite the same way as the list that you've sent over. But do you remember that one where he was pretending to be a seal against Porto away?
Yeah, unbelievable.
Like and that's just like, what are you doing, mate?
Someone put that in it.
Football? It's just brilliant.
It's like when you're 15-0 up a 5-a-side and you want to take the piss with the last goal, isn't it?
Yeah,
I think that was only was that the second as well in that one. I think you obviously go on and score 5, but being in the ground that night, like we were like, what on earth's going on here? Like he's heading the ball and stuff. He scored some absolute belters. I must admit, like we were talking on our podcast this morning about best goals we've seen sort of live, and I think I tend to prefer team goals. Rather than the sort of individual brilliance. And it's not a Mo Salah goal, but the one that sticks out for me is the one that was finished off by Emre Can against Hoffenheim in the, I think it was Champions League playoff at Anfield. You know, where Mignolet started off and then it goes Moreno, 3-1 touch passes in the midfield. Yeah. They're the type of goals that I love. Mo doesn't tend to do them. Mo tends to do the outrageous goals, which, you know, I get a lot of enjoyment out of as well.
The unthinkable. I mean, there's one that's not on the list. And again, because there's been so many, it gives you memory jogs. And shout out to the guys in the comments as well. Gems, Cop Talk, very new channel on the Liverpool scene as well. So please head over and give her a follow. Gems, if you could put your channel in the comments box as well, so everybody knows how to find you. But I've come across her stuff and it's really, really good. But this one, the Man United Alisson, this was, mate, that's sensational. He spots it, the ball goes over the top. Daniel James is trying to scramble back and trying to get next to Salah. And Daniel James, he's no slouch. And for Mo to keep the ball under control, fend him off, and then tuck it in as well. And then the top comes off, and he's just, and then the Alisson power slide at the end. He's run the full level. Just the whole euphoria around that goal. Even thinking about it now is giving me sweats because that was fantastic. And again, I'll give the floor to anyone right now that wants to raise me that one.
I've got a few favourite ones. Red Men in the comments as well. This is one of the ones I wanted to start on. I imagine that's Ross, is it, Chris, in there?
Yeah, it will be.
Yeah. Evening, Ross. We've got him on tomorrow.
Bake off on catch up.
But no, literally, like you say, I mean, what I was saying just off of there, I think if you're a Bournemouth or a Watford fan, you're sick of the sight of Mo Salah. He scores so many goals against them. So I imagine this one, like you say, I think he puts 3 or 4 Watford players on their arse. He did it. I think he did it twice
Miguel
in the same game. Yeah.
Miguel Britos. Don't forget that name.
That's right. There was one at the Anfield Road, and when he puts him on his butt, and then in the second half, I think he just twists, turns, and 3 or 4 players fall for the same move, and he kind of pokes it home. But so, some of the goals that I was watching, the 100 Club on Sky Sports, and it was really good. But there's some in the Champions League that have been incredible. I remember the Salzburg goal, and the angle, he went round the goalie, and the angle was just stupid, and he manages to chip it in, and you're thinking, how? It's on his right foot as well, if I remember rightly. Yeah. You know, that some of the goals against Roma in that 5-2 game when he's holding his hands up and he's picking them where he wants them. Put a postage stamp in the top corner and he finds it. It's just so many goals. And there was a good comment from Jem as well saying, you know, the variety of goals he scores. It's left, it's right, it's outside the box, it's arriving at the right place. It's you know, volleys, the goal against Leeds on the opening day last season, just drops to him and he absolutely levers it and he makes it look so easy. And that, I think volleying is probably the most difficult technique in football, in my opinion. But just so many goals, you know, even the what was it? The Crystal Palace one when in the 7-0, he starts on the bench. He comes on and thinks, I'll have a couple here. Just bends them in from outside the area. It's just
I let myself to a few.
Yeah, there's nothing
worth,
that the man
make it worth the journey. It's a long way back
absolutely.
to Liverpool.
There's nothing the man can't do. So, long may it continue, because when he does finish and hang up his boots at Liverpool, that the DVD is going to be a 3 or 4 part special, I think.
He's going to have a back catalogue, isn't he?
Yeah.
Get paid royalties off the back catalogue.
Absolutely.
It just the thing that jerks me a little bit is when you get rival fans, and Roy, I'll come to you on this one, saying that he can't dribble. He can't dribble. Every one of those goals that I put on that list, and I've done it on purpose, other than the Chelsea goal, are all goals where he's dribbling in the box, tight acute angles where it's congested. And he's putting players on their backsides. He's sending kids to the shop for a pint of milk. Like saying, there you go, mate, go fetch that. And while you're there, get me a paper. Because he's ankle breaking in the box. It's illegal, some of the stuff that he's doing. It should be outlawed. But why do rival fans have this perception that he can't dribble? Where is this coming from?
To be honest, I didn't even know that was a thing. I didn't even know rival fans did say that.
Yeah,
I'll be honest.
You see it on the Twitter timeline. Oh, he's not very good with the ball at his feet. I think he's got a very raw technique, and Suarez used to get criticised for the same thing. But with Suarez,
Suarez get nutmeg a mermaid. That's what
I'm saying. He'd get ricochets, wouldn't it? He'd get ricochets, and the ball would break for him. And that's what I see with Mo. The ball breaks for him after he goes past players, but he gets a lot of slate for it. And I think his dribbling technique is insane.
It's impeccable. Like if you look at some of the goals we've talked about, the Spurs, the Watford, the Napoli goal as well was pretty similar. City, Everton, they're all that type of intricate little bit of play where like the players are backing off him because they don't want to commit, and then he, as we've alluded to, he's put quite a lot of the world class defenders on the backside. When he's in the process. So that's a strange one to me, because one thing I'd say is one of his strongest attributes is when he runs at players, they don't know when to actually put a foot in, and that's hard. And he goes past world class players for fun at moments, moments of brilliance. I'd say it's only second to the likes of Messi, because he's obviously done it, for decade, a longer period of time. But I think Salah's intricate bit of play around the box. He's hard to tackle because you're going to foul him. He gets a lot of fouls. People say he dives a lot. I remember what season was it? We played Bournemouth. The 2 goals against Bournemouth, he scored ridiculous. One, someone scraped down the back of his Achilles, and he carried on going and scored. Like, so for me, dribbling, I think that's one of his strongest attributes.
I agree. You've got this comment here as well from Red Steve. Shout out to you as well. Thank you for contributing, man. His dribbling is like his pen taking, not great to look at, but effective.
I think that's harsh. I like watching him.
Do you know what? I kind of agree slightly with what he's trying to say there. I think what it is, it depends. Like, do you want? I'm going to use Cristiano Ronaldo as an example because all right, Nani, for instance. Then, would you want someone who can do all these step overs, go around a few people, come back inside and play a side ball to someone who should have played 2 minutes ago, or do you want someone to be direct, beat one person, and create an opportunity? Now,
that's the thing.
That's for me. You want the person who's create the opportunity, whether he's taken on 3 or 4 players or not. Do you know what I mean? So I understand where he's coming from a little bit, where it's like it's a simple dribble to go past players, but it's not. It's more in depth than that.
I think football fans are always about the eye test. They don't necessarily always think about the outcome, the end product. It's all about does it pass the eye test? Does it look sexy on screen? And you look at Messi, you look at Ronaldo, and they're doing step overs, pirouettes, and it looks very attractive, doesn't it? And people get off their seats. But like you said, Mo Salah is incredibly effective. And
Neymar's a prime example for modern day football.
Yes. Yeah.
No end product though.
Who would you rather have in your team at the moment, Neymar or Mo Salah?
No-brainer.
I agree. It's a no-brainer. It's not even a question for me, to be fair. I think to myself, who we're going to have. James, I'm going to come to you on this, and this starts our legendary status part of the show. There's a lot of talk now, and I'll shout out Terry from the Football Terrace. Good friend of the channel, helps us out quite a bit in terms of promo as well. So a big shout out to you, Terry. But he posed a question, and do you know what? I can understand. And what he said was, until Liverpool fans acknowledge that Mohamed Salah is our greatest, rival fans are not going to acknowledge him as being the greatest Liverpool player. And he caveated that in the Premier League era and I think that caveat's important because we have had some legends. And my response back is that it's very difficult for Liverpool fans to pick because we've had the cream. If you're talking about elite level players right the way through the ages, some that I'm not even old enough to remember, we've been spoiled. We've had the cream. I mean, Kenny Dalglish is one that sticks out. Ian Rush, Robbie Fowler, the late Sir Roger, as we've been talking about of late as well, and his untimely passing. You know, we've had the top level. So James, is he the best to do it in a Liverpool shirt in the Premier League era?
Oh, it's a difficult one, isn't it? I think, for me, Steven Gerrard is still Liverpool's best player of the Premier League era. I think when you judge it, I think it's so difficult to judge these legendary figures, especially when you reach that absolute higher echelon of iconic names, which Mohamed Salah definitely belongs in that company now. I don't think there's any question he would walk into an all-time Liverpool 11, certainly in my lifetime. But yeah, for me, I'd still have him second to Steven Gerrard for the simple reason that I think the longevity as well as the success. I think when you dedicate what Steven Gerrard gave to Liverpool for so long during periods where the team wasn't particularly successful and he carried that team on his back, I think you have to factor in the fact that as incredible as Mohamed Salah has been, he would be the first to acknowledge that he has been helped by the fact he's surrounded by so many elite world-class footballers as well. Steven Gerrard never got to play in a team as good as this one. But yeah, I think Gerrard is the only one now for me who comes close in the Premier League era, and it's incredible when you look at the all-time scorers list. And I think what is Salah 10th now in the all-time club list, and he 20 odd behind Michael Owen. I think 30 odd behind Kenny Dalglish. Less than 50, I think, behind Fowler. That just provides even more context. And if as we all hope, he does stay around for the next 4, maybe even 5 years, then he probably will only have Sir Roger Hunt and Ian Rush ahead of him. That is, and without a shadow of a doubt, I think we'll be having shows like this talking about is Mohamed Salah, Steven Gerrard, or Kenny Dalglish Liverpool's greatest ever player. But I think for me, it still has to happen. Has to win more and commit for a few more years before I'd have him as the absolute greatest.
And that's the thing, that you throw it out there. Is Mohamed Salah the greatest Liverpool player in the Premier League era? But we have arguably, like, growing up in late 90s, or early 90s, 2000, so on and so forth. Steven Gerrard made it okay to be a Liverpool fan. It was allowed because we had Steven Gerrard. If we didn't have Steven Gerrard, then you were just in a whole world of shit, because everyone would go, "You guys are doing crap. You went anywhere." But you'd have, we got Stevie G, Champions League moment, Gerrard final, Olympiacos, West Ham in the cup. So many iconic moments which you could just pull out of nowhere to throw back at someone and go, well, you ain't got none of that. So do you know what? Steven Gerrard's the one, and we're Liverpool fans, so it's all right. Do you know what I mean? Whereas now the conversation is, because we're at the top table again, as they say, we're back on our perch, to reference Phil Thompson after he won the Premier League. We're back on our perch. We can now sit and say that we've got a player which is almost rivaling Steven Gerrard for the title of the best there's been a Liverpool shirt in the Premier League era. So, Chris, I'll come to you on this one. Does Mo Salah trump him? Because, again, the one thing that's thrown at Stevie is he didn't win a Premier League. Mo's got a Premier League. Then you look at the Champions League. Well, Mo's been to 2 finals as well, like Stevie did, and won one, and Stevie won one. And then we look at Club World Cup, Super Cup. The goal-scoring records, there's a lot of evidence, and again, I love Steven Gerrard. He is my all-time favorite player. But there is a lot of evidence now stacking up to say that Mo is potentially the greatest in the Premier League era.
You could say that. I don't think many people are going to argue with because of the stats and stuff like that. But to go back onto something you sort of mentioned before, it's about the eyeball test for me as well as the stats, isn't it? You've got to go hand in hand with it. What James was saying, I completely agree with, is about, Steven Gerrard didn't play in a team with 6 world-class players, and Mo Salah does. Mo Salah's playing in a much better side. For me, this will tell you how much I think of Steven Gerrard. I think Steven Gerrard was talked about as the best midfielder in the world, and I think that's right. But we didn't have the confidence to say that he was the best player in the world because there were other players around at the time. Zidane is the prime example, who I think was better, maybe, than Steven Gerrard. I could genuinely make a case that Mo Salah is the best in the world now. And I can still tell you that I still think Steven Gerrard was a better player for us than Mo Salah. Like, that's how good I think Steven Gerrard was. But look, I'll be honest with you. I preferred watching Suarez play. Like, Suarez did something for me that, like, I enjoyed watching him play football more. Like, don't get me wrong, who's the better servant, who's had the longevity, etc., etc. Salah wins out in everything. But I enjoyed watching him, and I'll tell you what, I prefer Carragher to Gerrard. That's just the way. Like, it's not that he was a better player. It's just my personal preference was always Jamie Carragher over Steven Gerrard. I'm not going to tell you Jamie Carragher was a better player. Carragher was just my favourite. You know what I mean? Steven Gerrard was much better. Like, I'm not even gonna get into that. So you you just have favourites, don't you? And Mo Salah was never my favourite. I prefer Bobby Firmino, 2 years ago to Mo Salah, and Mo Salah banged 44 the year before. It's not always about who's the main guy and who's got the numbers. Probably now, Robbo's one of my favourite players. Like, it's just, I don't know, I find it difficult to tell you, is he better than Steven Gerrard? You know what, I don't know if I'll ever know a player that's better than Steven Gerrard other than, the stories that I grew up on about Kenny Dalglish. Now, I was lucky enough to remember a couple of years of Kenny, not huge amounts, but from what I saw and the way my dad talks about him and stuff like that, I mean, it's Kenny 1, it's Stevie 2. For my dad, for me, it's Stevie 1, Kenny 2. For younger people, Mo Salah will probably be number 1, and that's fine. You're not going to get me arguing against him.
And it's everything you said there, and what I've taken from that is that, and SS, I'll come to you on this. We've just been spoiled. Like, we've been spoiled. Let's be clear. Even when we were being banded around as being shit, because we all remember Ricky Lambert, Lazar Markovic. Okay, did you know what I mean? Aquilani. We've had some real bottom tier. Let's be honest. We've had some bottom tier shit. Yeah. But in that, we've had like beacons of light: Xavi Alonso, Steven Gerrard, Mascherano, Fernando Torres, Jamie Carragher. Daniel Agger was a favourite of mine. I loved watching Daniel Agger play. One of the first defenders I ever saw had the confidence to actually bring a ball out. Do you know what I mean? That for me, we had some real high level players at that point, and we're unlucky in that season not to pit Man United to the Premier League. We were incredibly unlucky not to do it. Yeah. So, because we've been spoiled, does that mean that it's difficult for us to let that pass our lips that Salah is the greatest? Do we say it through gritted teeth, or do we say it at all?
It's esteemed company, isn't it? You touched on our tier lists a bit earlier. We started with goalkeepers from the late 70s, and we've gone all the way through. And obviously, it's strikers this week. And some of the players we've not even touched on. Hansen, Phil Neal, Kevin Keegan, Michael Owen. All right, they might not leave as much of a legend as maybe they were at the time at the club. But John Barnes is another one that we've not even touched on. Some of these players are outrageously good. So when you're talking about Mo Salah, who's still playing, it's always very, very difficult to judge someone that's still within they're still writing their story, and you're comparing them to finished books of all these great legends that have left and remain legends. So, there's a couple of comments in there. McManaman is the reason I support Liverpool. He was the player that made me a Liverpool fan. So different eras, you're going to have different nostalgia. But I think when you're comparing Salah in terms of just Premier League, and probably you can only really compare him to forwards / attacking midfielders. So Gerrard just kind of sneaks in. Chris mentioned Luis Suarez. He was outrageously good. Fernando Torres, for a short time, was the best striker in the world. I do judge it a bit more on stats for myself. That's just how I am. I look at how long have they done it for, what have they won, how many goals are they scoring, and like Chris said again, Mo Salah wins nearly every chat of every conversation of that. So for me, it is a toss up between Gerrard and Salah. I think if Salah signs a new deal, it stays for another 5 years, maybe wins a second Premier League and a second Champions League, it's very, very difficult to not say he's the best. If he's picked up another, 100 goals for Liverpool in that time as well, I think as much as I love Steven Gerrard, Mo Salah will top him based on that. And whether that's fair, because again, like the guys said, he's been in better teams, that's not really his fault. So if you're judging him against Gerrard as a player at Liverpool Football Club, Gerrard definitely had to carry the team a hell of a lot, but Mo Salah's had to carry this team at times. Last year, as a prime example, not every achievement gets you a trophy. So I think that's where I am. At the end of Salah's career, if we look back, there's another 100 goals, another Prem, another Champions League. I think for me, he is the greatest we've seen.
You make some real strong points in there. And Roy, I'm going to come to you. The fact that he's still playing and still has longevity left in that career, we could see him reach another 100 goals in Liverpool shirt and become probably one of our outright number one scorers. He could lift another Premier League. I'm hoping in that time he lifts a lot more than one. He could go for another Champions League. Again, I'm hoping that in that time he gets a lot more than another Champions League. The possibilities are endless. But there is this thought process that with Liverpool, the fact that Steven Gerrard is one of our own or one of their own, to speak, that propels him a little bit higher. That gives him that extra kind of kudos. It gives you extra points, in the chart of who is the greatest of all time in terms of a Liverpool shirt. Do you feel that that's correct? Is that something that the fan base do lean on, the fact that Stevie, he came through the academy, played for the club from a young age, graduated from the academy into the first team, debut, and then the moments which we've gone on to witness in Liverpool shirt? Is that difficult for Mo to top?
At this present moment in time, yeah. Because everybody loves to see your local lad make it. We're witnessing it with Trent now. So, even in 10 years, we could be having this conversation about Trent as well. There is a little, because the local, I get that. So at the moment with the Salah situation, he can't top Steven Gerrard at the moment of his career. The way I see it, as you've all alluded to again, is he's probably, if he signs another contract, he's probably only halfway through his Liverpool career. And it's definitely a conversation that we'll need to have in 5 years' time to see how those goals or those trophies, how they add up and stack it to the likes of Dalglish. Because let's not forget, Dalglish won a hell of a lot in a Liverpool shirt. Look at it this way. Chris said before, his dad, it's Dalglish Gerrard. For him, it's Gerrard Dalglish. For me, it's Gerrard Dalglish, because I'm assuming we're around about the same age. It's just the way things are. So making Salah's in modern day football, a lot of obviously Liverpool fans growing up in their early teens, their early 20s, they're gonna say Salah's the best because it's easy to pick somebody at the present time over the people you kind of forget about or maybe don't even know about. Listen, we were talking before about the goal against Man City being one of his best already because it happened at the weekend. Don't get me wrong, it is. It's
fresh
ridiculous.
In the memory, isn't it?
Yeah, it's fresh in the memory. So at the moment, that's the situation we've got with Salah. So in 5 years' time, this conversation will have a better, we'll have more to discuss and obviously iron out. But at the moment, Steve, so we did this podcast come from our tweets, by the way? or did you have this in the? Was it from our tweets?
We had it in the pipeline, but the tweets that we exchanged and all the kind of piggybacking off it, because it got a lot of traction.
Yeah, it did, and I made some points in that tweet. I've got them here. So with Salah, you could go on and say, yeah, he's won a Premier League, and Steven Gerrard hasn't. They've won a Champions League each. They've both been to 2 finals. I think that's the wrong way to assess. If you're going to compare them, the way I think you've got to do it is you've got to ask questions like, who would be missed more in their teams? Who would be missed more out of the 2 of them in this current Liverpool team? Who's got the biggest influence on and off the pitch? Who's the biggest leader? Who's won more points single-handedly? You know, those are the type of conversations you've got to have if you want to choose who's the best out of the 2 of them right now. And to be fair, there's a case for both of them. I touched before saying Salah single-handedly won points on his own that weren't there to be won last season. Gerrard's done it. You know, the Gerrard final, the FA Cup, the Champions League final. Both their influences. They're the discussions you've got to have. You can't go solely on, oh, he's won more, because if that was the case, Steven Gerrard wouldn't be one of the best midfielders in the world when you've got likes of Frank Lampard, who's won Champions Leagues and Premier League. So you can't have them conversations, especially as we've all discussed. This current Liverpool team is probably the best Premier League team that we've had in my lifetime that I can think of. So 5 years down the line, when his numbers have picked up, more trophies, maybe a Ballon d'Or or 2, then we can probably put him as number 1.
I agree with everything that you've said. And just finally, James, to give you the final say on this, we've heard from all the guys on the panel. What the hell was
that? Have you not met me, Mugler Dom? You haven't seen my pods of it.
What is R2D2?
That's legendary. That is. Hold that up again. Hold that up again.
It's me Mugler Dom. It's got all my gaming shit on it. Yeah. So, dude, I've got a gaming YouTube channel as well, which I do. So it's evolved from one of the communities.
We'll move on. Drink out of it though.
Just water. So just get me intake of water every day.
I don't know if there's water.
Hey, do you know what? I didn't drink much water until I got it, and now I drink it every night. Like
like a
you go
challenge.
to the toilet a lot as well, though, to be fair.
I do, yeah. I'm up 3 or 4 times, but it's worth it. It's good.
Well, mate, credit to you because you're better than me. Because I couldn't tank off that, I'll tell you that. But James, just like we've heard from the whole panel again, and just as we begin to close, the conversation is going to rage on, and just like Roy said, eventually they're going to be chucking Trent in there. Eventually, local lad, assuming that he performs and he reaches a level and so on and so forth. Curtis Jones could get chucked in there. Harvey Elliott could get chucked. There's always going to be someone to compare, isn't there? The next thing. Based on the fans that are coming through. Because if you ask my 2 boys, 10, 7, and even my 2-year-old knows a Mo Salah song. You know, my boys sing it all the time. And when I talk to my eldest son about Steven Gerrard, he has an infinite memory of it, very small memory of Gerrard. Yeah, very, very small. Because, watching videos and some watching me, watch Steven Gerrard. But the middle one has no clue. To him, Mo Salah is everything. Again, to my youngest, Mo Salah is everything. He's a god to those 2. Like, they worship him. Running around the song, doing everything, scoring in the garden and running off saying Salah scores and so on and so forth. All of that. Is this just a generational thing? Because like Chris said, it's Gerrard, Kenny for him. For his dad, it's Kenny, Gerrard. For me, at the moment, I'm the same as Chris. It's Gerrard, Kenny, then Mo. Do you see what I'm saying? So is it just a generational thing that is causing this kind of debate?
Yeah, 100%. I think Chris is spot on. And there isn't a right or a wrong answer to this, is it? Because it's about what these players mean to you as a fan. And that is a very personal thing. And it doesn't, it's not just about numbers. It's not just about statistics. So it's about the emotion, the passion, the service they've given, the really special, iconic moments you remember years and years after a player's left. And, that doesn't always have to be a spectacular goal or an unbelievable assist. So, no, I think, just having this conversation, it just makes you realise just how absolutely blessed we've been as Liverpool fans to be able to watch so many of these legendary names. I mean, we haven't even mentioned Virgil van Dijk. When you think about transformative signings in Liverpool's history, it's in 3 or 4 years' time. Who knows where he stands in the pantheon of absolutely iconic legends. So no, it's certainly in the case of Mohamed Salah. I think you just have to enjoy him, whether he's here for 2 more years or 4 or 5 more years. Just enjoy him every week, because when he's no longer at Liverpool, and hopefully that day is a long way off, the club will be a much worse place for him.
I agree, and that's a great way to kind of bring the show to an end, because everything you said there is absolutely correct. We just have to enjoy the player whilst we have him here with us, because we have been spoiled over the years. That the list is endless, and if we all sat here and started listing all the players, we'd be here all night. But guess what? That's what tomorrow's for.
Tier list
part 1 coming up. So SS, I'll flick over to you. Please tell the viewers exactly what we got cracking over the rest of the week, because it is a big, and we've been throwing it on Twitter. The best 5-a-side team. The lineup can win. We've had it all in terms of comments on the Twitter. So what have we got coming up?
Yeah, so Strikers tier list part 1 tomorrow. Not to be missed, we've got Ross from Redmen and a good friend Steve Plunk, a good friend of the show as well, and Statman Stubbs as well, part of the Red Sea team, will be on that one. Thursday's part 2. Again, like you mentioned, I think we've got about 12 strikers on each one. So if we can try and get through them in an hour, that'd be great. But yeah, part 2, we've got Paul Machin on from Redmen. So really, really excited to welcome him back onto the show. And again, it'll be me and yourself and Steve on that one as well. So after that, obviously, we've still not got any football match to talk about this coming weekend, because it's boring England at Andorra, which is a complete waste of time for everybody involved.
Is that who they're playing? Yeah, nice.
I think so. And then Liverpool, Watford, obviously, is the next one. Me and James are very lucky and fortunate enough to be going to the game, so that'll be one to watch. And we do obviously a Fab Four on the Friday of to preview that game, and we do a Red Sea full-time reaction, which we'll be doing from Vicarage Road. So lots and lots to look out for over the next week or so.
Definitely, and we'll be doing some fan cam stuff there as well. So if you are in and around the Watford game, please come up and find us. We'd love to say hello and get you involved in some of the fan cam stuff. But it just leaves me to thank, obviously, the panel for coming on. So Chris, tell obviously the viewers where they can find you if they don't already know where they can find you.
Yeah, Redmen TV on YouTube, youtube.com/RedmenTV. Thanks very much, gents. It's been a pleasure. Nice to see you again, James. Nice to meet you, Roy, and you too, Adam, and
you, Chris.
The other James.
Pleasure, Chris.
Yeah, good. Roy will come to you as well. Tell the viewers where they can find you, because your channel went a little bit dormant, didn't it? We've exchanged a story about your channel, but honestly, guys, check him out, because there's some top tier stuff on there, and also you do a bit of gaming stuff as well. So you're a jack of all trades, aren't you, mate?
Well, they're separate entities. I don't like to include them both. I don't like to cross. It's just no one's interested in me gaming if they're interested in me for Liverpool. So I kind of don't do the crossover. Yeah, top of the cop, TOTKHQ. We've just started YouTube. I say we, it's just me now. But just started YouTube. So yeah, we're looking to get that off the floor. So YouTube and Twitter.
Yeah.
Oh, and also it's been great meeting all of you, Chris, James, and Adam. It's been brilliant. I love being here.
And
it's
you.
good to
Pleasure.
have you on as well, mate. And JP, thank you for coming back on the show. Tell the viewers where they can find you if they don't know already.
Yeah, no problem, guys. No, it was great to be back on the show again. Twitter at James Pearce LFC and theathletic.com.
Yeah, and if you don't already, you need to subscribe to The Athletic. I've got my subscription. There's some good stuff in there, some good quality content that you're reading in there as well. James Pearce obviously writes a good section there too, and I'm going to tap him up already. We will be doing another deadline show in the January window, and we will get you back on. So once I've got you here now, I'm signing you up straight away.
Put him big screen again and watch his shock again when that happened before. That was hilarious.
I know he's a busy man. I'm planning my schedule in advance. We've got to. So say yes, and we'll talk more about it off camera.
Wow. James knows Liverpool aren't signing anyone, and he's free that night. So,
I've just checked the diary.
Well, we had you on for our transfer Tuesday, a week or two before the window closed, and that was ended up being a bit load of hot air, didn't it, with all the rumours going around in the mill.
Yeah.
But no, I'd love to have you back again for some more stuff. And Chris, same as you. Roy, same as you. I'm sure SS seconds that as well.
Absolutely.
You guys have been sensational. as part of the panel. So you're always welcome back on the Red Sea podcast. And just before we dash off, a little bit more housekeeping as well. We are on the way to 500 subscribers. So if you'd like to be part of that, please like and subscribe. Also set the bell notification as well, so you know exactly what's coming up from the Red Sea podcast over the next couple of weeks and beyond. But obviously, you guys know who I am. My name's Thiagos Father 89 with my co-host Southern Scouser. Thank you for joining the Red Sea podcast tonight. We're over and out.